Right, let's see if the streaming is live now. I think we are. Yes, I think we are live now. All right, so today we are talking about project coordinator. Everything that you need to know about this job title of project coordinator. And I'll be honest, a lot of project management professionals, people who work in the project management industry, their first job role is, or their first job title is actually a project coordinator, or maybe a junior or an assistant project manager. So what exactly is this role of project coordinator? What do project coordinators do? As I said, this could be your first job title in the field of project management. How is this different from project manager, right? So what is the difference between project coordination and project management? That's something that we will be talking about today. In addition to that, we will also look at the difference between a project coordinator and a project manager. So it is a very important video. Do stick around till the end. My name is Shoaib. If this is the first time we are meeting, I started my career in project management in 2011, and I added logos of the certifications that I have. I used to use text, but I got a feedback that it looks really cool to add all the logos because I have so many certifications. So I've done that. These are all the certifications that I hold. All of them directly or indirectly belong to the project management field itself. And I'm a speaker, mentor, consultant. I've been associated with all these different organizations in some capacity or the other. What is pmclounge.com? This video is sponsored by pmclounge.com. PMC stands for Project Management Certifications. But beyond certifications, we want to simplify project management. That's our goal. Our goal is to simplify the concepts, simplify stuff related to project management so that if you're an aspirant, someone who aspires to be a project manager or get into the field of project management, you are able to do so. If you're an aspirant of PMP certification or any other project management related certification, you get certified. So that's just one level. And the second level is once you are a certified professional or once you enter the field of project management, we want to ensure that you move from this level to the next level, become an established project management professional, right? So those are the kind of levels that we work with. This video is helpful if you want to get yourselves into the project management industry, because as I mentioned, project coordinator is typically the first role that you will get, your first job title, if you want to enter the field of project management. We are available on all our socials: Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. You can join us on Telegram or WhatsApp as well. Definitely consider subscribing, as I mentioned. In addition to all the concept videos of PMP or project management, in addition to all that, you will get content like this live session. You will get podcasts around the project management industry, so that you stay abreast with what's happening in the industry and you go from that aspirant to certified to established level, right? So you cross all those levels. So that's what we are all about. So definitely consider subscribing. Let's look at the agenda for today. We will talk about what exactly is project coordination, how it differs from project management. So what is the difference between coordination and management? Why project coordination matters, and this is the reason why project coordinators matter and why they exist. Six essential skills for project coordinator, four key qualities of a project coordinator, and there's a difference between skills and qualities. We will also cover a bit about that, and finally we will take a look at a comparison table between the two. So a lot of ground to cover. Let's get started with what exactly is project coordination. Day to day activities that organize and drive tasks forward. That's what project coordination is all about. That's at the heart of project coordination. So imagine you're running let's say a relay race, right? So you're running a relay race, but instead of batons, you hand off tasks. So you are handing off tasks to your team members. Project coordination is tracking each runner's position, what they are working on, who's next, and what they need, and when they need to do the handoff, right? For example, you update the task board each morning so everyone knows what today's priorities are. So, as a project coordinator, you oversee everyone who's doing this running. You make sure that the baton is passed. You make sure who is going to be the next in line to do the running, right? So, that's how your entire task board is basically being managed. Proactively identifying and removing blockers. So, blocker is basically anything that stalls progress. So, for example, if there's an overdue vendor deliverable or if there's a missing approval, that is basically going to stall progress. So, your team, let's say, completed design and you need approval from, let's say, the development manager so that the design can be approved and development can begin, but the development manager is not available or has not signed off. As a project coordinator, you need to follow up with the development manager to make sure that he or she or they approve the design so that development can begin. So that is basically one of the blockers, right? Which is something that you need to identify and remove. This is something that we just talked about, critical design. If it is delayed, you reach out immediately to the the development manager, and you ask for their approval. Similarly, there is a concept of dependency as well. So there could be dependent tasks, and one team might be dependent on another team, and those two teams do not talk to each other because of the nature of their work. So you act as a bridge between these two teams. You make sure that if they have to talk to each other, they do so. Even if they don't talk to each other, you make sure that you communicate the dependency and you make sure that the blockers are removed. This is something that you as a project coordinator are expected to do proactively. So all your day-to-day activities and all your proactively identifying and removing blockers is the meat and potatoes of what project coordination is all about. Now, what is the difference between project coordination and project management? I know based on the first slide itself, some project managers listening to this might think, well, that's what I'm doing. So, are you saying I'm not a project manager and I'm just coordinating stuff? That is possible because it is likely that your organization does not have any project coordinator post. Project manager is expected to do that. So, this is something which is possible. But when it comes to the difference between coordination and management, what exactly is that? So, coordination focuses on task execution and progress tracking, something that we talked about in the previous slide as well. As a project coordinator, you live in today's work. You make sure that tasks move from to do to done, right? So, you might have seen those Kanban boards, to do, in progress, done. So your job as a project coordinator is to make sure that everything that's in the to-do list moves to done. Your job as a project coordinator is also to update status boards, check off deliverables, and intervene if there's any blocker or if the tasks stall, right? So that's something which is all about project coordination. And I've mentioned this earlier, I'd like to repeat it. As a project manager, it is possible that you are also doing this, and it is part of your job role to coordinate as well as manage. So, what exactly is project management then? Management focuses on strategic planning and goal setting. So, when we talk about terms like strategies, when we talk about terms like goals, that's when we are talking about project management. So, this is a contrast to simple task execution and progress tracking, right? And I'm just using the word simple, but it's definitely this job is also not simple, but that's the contrast, right? Between project management and project coordination. As a project manager, you define the destination. You just don't work on day to day basis. You define the destination that the team needs to reach. You will have to set objectives, you will have to set budgets, you will have to set timelines, you might have to set quality criteria as well. As a project manager, you might have to craft the roadmap of how your team is going to reach the goal that they set out to basically reach, right? So how are they going to reach there? That's also a roadmap is something that a project manager is supposed to do. So you are the one as a project manager who need to shepherd the team along the roadmap so that they reach their goal. Now, I would like to ask you, and definitely go ahead and answer this in the comments below. Has your team ever blurred these roles, the project coordinator role and the project manager role? And did this impact delivery by any chance? Because that is also possible. Sometimes, you know, project manager might not want to coordinate. So, has that ever happened? What is your experience between the project manager and project coordinator role? Let me know in the comments below. I would like to do a quick reminder here about our PM 101 session. It's a free 1.5 hours training video. Definitely check out the link in the description below if you want to learn the basics of project management, not project coordination. The M stands for management here, right? So this is an absolute legend of a training video, over 500,000 views. Thousands of our community members have made use of this video to learn the basics of project management. So definitely check this out. But let's move on and let's talk about point number 3, which is why coordination matters. Why is this role so important? The role of a project coordinator, right? Why is this important? This is something that you're going to understand as part of this slide. This coordination, right? Project coordinator role, or how you coordinate, this prevents miscommunication as well as duplicated work. When every update goes into one shared space like a Kanban board, no one wastes time asking who's on that or who's working on this, who's working on that, is this under our radar or not, right? And they don't accidentally recreate the same deliverable, which is also possible if you have a large development team, right? Two people might be working on the same piece of code without realizing it. So if Elias marks a task ready for review, Bob knows he can pick it up immediately. So that's something, when you prevent miscommunication, when you prevent duplicated work, when you have an oversight of the entire project, uh, that's how, when you coordinate, things like these do not occur. Coordination keeps project momentum by quickly unblocking issues, right? So, all your blockers, anything that stalls progress, they need to be unblocked. Suppose you learn that a vendor missed a deadline. And when I say you, I mean the project coordinator. So, the project coordinator learns that a vendor has missed the deadline. Rather than letting your developers wait, you scramble an alternative resource or assign or reassign tasks so work never stops. So that's something that, as a project coordinator, may or may not be, but in most cases might be in your uh, purview to reassign tasks, so that even if there's a delay from the vendor side, team does not stop working, and this does not lead to waste of resources. Monitors timelines to avoid last minute fire drills. Very important when we are talking about coordination of a project. When we are working in a project environment, we do not want to waste resources, but we also do not want to do last minute fire drills. That's the importance of planning, right? If you have to do fire drills, then your planning has actually failed. So you can check progress weekly as a project coordinator, right? If you check your progress, the project progress on a weekly basis, you can spot slippages like a feature running 2 days late, and you can reallocate resources or even extend work hours if that's possible before the launch date, so that last minute fire drills do not occur. Coordination can track budgets to prevent cost overruns. So, as a project coordinator, you are expected to track the project budget as well. If you budget, let's say, 100,000 US dollars for external testing, and that's a lot of money for external testing, but just assume here. But if you see that 120,000 US dollars is what the invoices are expected, or that's already come to you, you can catch that 20% overspend, or you can foresee, right? Let's say the budget was 100,000 US dollars for all your testing is 50% complete, and you see that the invoices are of 60,000 US dollars. You can foresee that at 100% completion of testing, the invoice is going to rise up to 120,000 US dollars, right? So that's something that you can catch early, that 20% overspend, and you can maybe negotiate scope adjustments, or you can reallocate budget from your lower priority tasks, or at least you can talk to people who have the authority to do so. Ensures critical information is documented as well as accessible to all project team members. Living documents, onboarding guides, or your QA checklists mean anyone can jump in and know exactly what to do, even if the regular owner is out sick. So, whenever you have living documents, anyone should be able to jump in, anyone should be able to go over the documents and know what needs to be done, even if the owner of those documents is not available. These could be your onboarding guides, this could be your QA checklists, or any other document for that matter, right? So these are some of the reasons why coordination matters and what a project coordinator is supposed to do. Now, let's talk about six essential coordination skills, and we'll start off with create and manage schedule. So, that's something that project coordinators do. They create the schedule, they manage the schedule, as you might have figured from what we have talked about so far. Work backwards from the project deadline to set interim milestones. If your final delivery is 30th of September, you have to map backwards. Quality or testing should be done by 15th of September. Development should be done by 1st of September. Design should be done by 15th of August. Right? So this reverse planning builds in buffer days for surprises. If you want to do that, you can add buffers, but this is something that you as a project coordinator is expected to do. Review and update the schedule weekly with the team. So on your weekly calls with the team, weekly stand-ups with the team, let's say for example every Monday, you can gather quick status updates and adjust milestone dates. If someone says I'm 2 days ahead on coding, you can adjust the milestone date internally based on that, right? This keeps everyone aligned on what's next. The quality team or the testing team can basically plan that it is possible to start testing 2 days earlier, since the coding is 2 day ahead of the schedule. Number two is track tasks with visual tools. It is possible that you might not have visual tools, but tracking tasks is also a skill that project coordinator must have. You can use Kanban boards for task flow or Gantt charts for timelines. A Kanban board basically gives you columns like to do, in progress, done, or review, and then done. And this is ideal for agile sprints. Then there's Gantt chart. Gantt chart lays out tasks on a calendar, so you see overlaps and dependencies just by looking at the Gantt chart. Just at a glance, you should be able to see that. Assign clear owners and due dates on every task card. So on your board, it could be your Kanban board, right? Each card shows the assignee and a deadline. If a card, let's say, is in the review column of your Kanban board and it sits ideal for 3 days, there should be an alert for you as a project coordinator to chase that reviewer and make sure that they review whatever that is in review and they do not stall the progress of the project. Manage the budget. This is again something that, as a project coordinator, a skill that you must have. You should be able to break down costs by deliverable and track the actual spend versus what was the forecast spend. So if you allocate 50,000 US dollars for design, 30,000 US dollars for development, 20,000 US dollars for testing, you have to compare the invoices to these line items on a weekly basis, so you know if any area is bleeding funds. Now, it is possible that you work in an environment where you don't have to manage the budget. There's no invoicing that is being done, or you're not dealing with external vendors or third party developers or third party designers, right? So there's no invoice to do, and that's fine. But what we are talking about is that, as a project coordinator, managing the budget is a skill that you should have, right? You should also be able to escalate any line item variance over 10% for course correction. And this can differ from company to company, industry to industry as well. As an example, if testing is, let's say, 15% over budget, you have to flag it immediately, and you should think about possible solutions here. Can you reduce scope? Can you negotiate vendor rates? Or can you shift funds from another category, right? Early escalation is always going to avoid end of project cost shocks. So this is something that you should be aware of, and you should have a skill to basically look at the budget and manage budget accordingly. All right, I'd like to remind you about our playlist section. This is where the gold is. If you're preparing for PMP or any other project management certification for that matter, all the conceptual videos are neatly arranged in the playlist section. Definitely check this out. It is totally free. Okay, let's talk about the fourth skill that you as a project coordinator must have, and that is communicating with stakeholders. Communication, basically, right? So you should be able to send concise status reports with health indicators, wins, blockers, and any other section that you feel should be added here, right? It could be a one page update. It can start with a green, yellow, red icon to basically say what is the health of your project right now. It can follow, let's say, two bullet points of recent wins, like, completed UI tests on schedule. It can also include blockers, like, awaiting legal approval, something like that, right? So that's how you create concise status reports and you communicate with all your stakeholders. Automate reporting by linking your project tool to a reusable template. So templates is something that you as a project coordinator should be able to make use of. If your company or organization already has templates, even if you don't have templates, this is something that you as a project coordinator can make. So can you hook your status template to your, let's say, your whatever project management tool, whatever, if they have any API, so your dates or percent complete, they can all be populated automatically, which is basically less manual work and more time to coordinate the actual projects. A question for you here: what format do you prefer for status updates? Do you do emails? Do you do just link to the project management tool or the dashboards, or is there anything else that you make use of? Let me know in the comments what format do you prefer, or do you send across to your stakeholders when it comes to the status updates. Okay, let's talk about creating and managing the schedule of the project. So we are now talking about the schedule. You should keep living documents for any recurring workflows like onboarding or quality. Each time you refine a process, you should immediately update the shared document so the next person follows the newest steps. And that is one of the biggest advantages of having these living documents. Use clear versioning, and you should use centralized storage. So you should name files with versions like 1.0, 1.01, right? So this is basically something. Versioning again is something, is a skill that you as a project manager you are expected to know. Using living documents instead of documents that are stored on your local machine is again a skill that you as a project coordinator must know. Now, I know a lot of you might think, This is very basic. How is it that we are talking about skills like these? But remember, project coordinator job role, the job title is for young graduates, fresh graduates out of the college. And it is possible that they might not know even such basic things. So these are also counted as skills. So you take care of the schedule. It is possible that the schedule is passed on to you, but things like these, making use of living documents, making sure the versioning is correct, is also something that you should be able to basically manage and basically make sure that this is in line. Now, when it comes to the schedule of the project, you can work with the different stakeholders on your project. You can work with the design team, you can work with the development team, you can work with the quality team. You can ask how much time they would need to complete the scope of the project, right? And then you can work with the customer or the client, and you ask them what is the time of delivery that they are looking for, and what is the time that you will be able to deliver the project based on your discussion with all these stakeholders. So all that is something that you as a project coordinator is anyway supposed to do. But in addition to that, it is also possible that at your job role as a project coordinator, a project manager or a senior project manager, someone who's a lot experience, just hands over that project management, that project schedule to you, and your job is to then do these things that we just talked about. You make sure that it is a living document, you make sure the versioning on it is correct, and you make sure that this document is up to date at all times. Okay, you should run effective meetings. The keyword here is effective, and this is the sixth and the last essential coordination skills. Only schedule meetings when necessary. You should always include an agenda on the meeting. So before you hit the schedule button, ask if an email or a quick async video can also suffice, right? If you proceed and send an agenda, at least you should do that at least 24 hours in advance. Record meeting minutes. You should do that live, and you should assign action items with owners and due dates. You should use a shared document during the meeting, and at the end you can state, action 1, John to update mockups by Friday, action 2, Priya to draft test cases by next Wednesday, and so on and so forth, right? You have to have clear accountability so that you keep the follow-ups friction free. People should know that this is something that they are supposed to do. So you have to schedule meetings only when necessary. Whenever you're scheduling meeting, include an agenda. When it comes to meetings, make sure you're recording the meeting minutes, make sure you're recording who's the owner of the action items and what are the due dates. So this is simple, but this is something that you as a project coordinator is expected to do. I'd like to talk about our YouTube membership program here, which is called VIP Pass. You get all these fantastic perks. You can actually schedule a one on one virtual meeting with me and get your questions or doubts around the project management career, project management certifications clarified with me as part of our Lounge Access program, which is part of the VIP Pass YouTube membership. So definitely consider joining, and let's move on to the four key coordinator qualities. We just talked about six skills. Now we are looking at four qualities. The reason for that is we've talked about the core skills that you need to perform as a project coordinator, right? We talked about scheduling, budgeting, running meetings, and so on. But now let's talk about the person who is behind those skills. Because even with the best tools in the world, coordination is going to fall apart without the right mindset and behaviors. So these four qualities, these are not tasks, right? This is not create schedule, manage schedule, create budget, and all that. This is not what we are talking about when we talk about qualities. What we are talking about is the traits, right? The traits of a project coordinator. And these traits are going to make all the difference. So the first one is exceptional communicator who listens and clarifies. So this is a quality that you as a project manager should have. A great coordinator confirms understanding, so nothing goes sideways. You can say, just to be clear, we've got final sign off from marketing next Tuesday. This is something that we are going to get next Tuesday. So, things like these, when you listen and then you also clarify with marketing on the call, you just ask the question that, this is what we've been discussing, and I believe marketing is going to sign off on next Tuesday. Am I correct? Right? So, this is something which is part of your communication, right? Organized multitasker who balances priorities. Multitasking is the name of the game when it comes to project management, right? So, as a project coordinator, you will have to juggle, let's say, vendor contracts, sprint backlogs, status reports without dropping balls. So, you will have to often batch similar tasks together, but you can safely assume that as a project coordinator, multitasking is something which you must learn, if not already, and you should balance priorities. You should know, just because you're a multitasker does not mean that you take everything that is being thrown at you. You should know what are the priorities. Proactive problem solver who anticipates risks. Anticipation again is the key here. You should be able to foresee the risks on the project, right? So instead of reacting to, let's say, a server SLA breach, you should have already lined up a backup host. And this is forward thinking. This keeps the projects on track. Detail oriented executor who catches inconsistencies. This is again something as a project coordinator you are expected to do. You should notice if one document lists dates in DDMM format and another document lists in MMDD format. And you should be able to fix it. You should be able to create ground rules and ask everyone to use the same format. As simple as that, right? So, this is the detail orientation that you as a project coordinator is supposed to possess. So, we talked about the qualities and we talked about the skills of project coordinator. Now, let's take a look at the difference between a project coordinator and a project manager, right? And this is something major because a lot of project managers, this is something that I've talked about earlier as well, a lot of project managers are supposed to coordinate projects as well. So you can see all this, whatever a project coordinator does, a project manager is also expected to do. So, communication, scheduling tools, budget tracking, task tracking, documentation, running effective meetings, multitasking, detail orientation, proactive problem solving, all this is something that we talked about. All this is something that we said that a project coordinator must possess, which is all correct. But a project manager must also possess all of this because it is likely that you, as a project manager, do not have project coordinators working for you, do not have project coordinators running meetings for you or tracking tasks for you, right? Or doing the multitasking for you. So it is likely that you, as a project manager, is the only person managing the project. There are no project coordinators inside. So you are supposed to be good at all of this as well. As a project coordinator, this is something that is expected out of you. So project coordinators, they are going to live in the day to day, as you can see here, and they are the ones who are turning the abstract plans into reality because their focus is on execution, right? Project coordinators are going to set up task boards. They are going to track who's doing what. They are going to schedule the meetings. They are going to send all the reminders, and they basically will be keeping the team humming. But let's say a project manager outlines a new product launch in 4 phases. So now we are talking about a project manager, right, who has outlined a product launch in 4 phases. It is the project coordinator's task to ensure that within each phase, whatever tasks are required, they are progressing, the dependencies are being managed, the blockers are being removed in real time, right? So this is the difference between project manager and a coordinator, right? Project manager might have just outlined that there is a product launch and these are the four different phases that the project is going to go through, and then the project manager hands over the budget, the schedule, the scope, everything that the teams are expected to do, and the project manager hands over all this information to the project coordinator so that coordinator can do his or her job. As I mentioned earlier, it is possible that you don't have a project coordinator, you are the project manager and you are doing all of this on your own, right? So keep that in mind as well. Now, project manager, what is the additional stuff that the project manager is focusing on? And as you can see here, strategies, leadership, strategic thinking, risk management, decision making, conflict resolution. These are the high level stuff, higher level stuff that project managers look into. So whenever we talk about project managers, we are usually referring to the person responsible for defining the big picture. They are operating at a higher level. They are looking into the why, the what, the when, and project managers are the strategic minds behind the project. They can make tough decisions, they can lead through change, and they can mitigate risks before they snowball. For example, if a client suddenly shifts the project scope, it's the project manager who steps in to renegotiate timelines, to reprioritize deliverables, and to communicate changes to the executives of the organization. So, leadership, vision, risk awareness, all of these are key aspects of project management and key stuff that project manager takes care of. Now, obviously, there's an overlap. As you can see, there's an overlap between these two roles. Both project managers and coordinators, they use all these, like the scheduling tools. They do all these tracking. They run effective meetings. But the intent and the scale of their actions are going to be very different. A project manager might run a meeting to align cross functional leaders on, let's say, long term priorities, on the bigger picture. But a coordinator might run a meeting to assign, tomorrow's tasks or the next week's tasks or the upcoming tasks, not the bigger picture, right? So, as again, another example, a project manager might create the project budget, but the coordinator makes sure that we are not burning through the line items faster than expected. So, obviously, they are going to sort of complement each other. A project manager is more of a strategist, a project coordinator is more of a tactician. And you have to understand that the distinction between the two, but it also strengthens teamwork and it strengthens the delivery. Whenever a project manager and a coordinator understand their unique roles and trust each other, things just click, projects get delivered faster and more efficiently. The project manager does not have to micromanage task execution, and that is not a project manager's task, to be honest, right? The coordinator should be able to do that. But again, I would like to repeat, it is possible that in your organization you do not have a project coordinator and you are the one who's have to do the micromanagement of making sure the tasks are done, and you could be a project manager, a senior project manager doing so that's the ground reality. But for the sake of our video and for the sake of the role of the for the sake of the role of the project coordinator that a lot of organizations do have, that's the reason why we are discussing all of this, right? So you can imagine a movie set. The director is going to envision what the scene is going to look like, but the assistant director is going to make sure that the camera rolls, the lights are set, and everyone hits their mark. Whenever these two roles are in sync, your project is not just well managed, it is actually unstoppable. So make sure if you have a project coordinator with you, make sure he is your Robin to your Batman, of course, and make sure to work with them. Uh, share this video with them so that they understand what their role is all about. If you want to get into project management, I hope this video was helpful. Smash that like button if you found it valuable, and definitely consider subscribing for more content on project management. That's all that we had in this video, but we have loads of other helpful content to help you understand project management in the simplest terms possible. So definitely keep learning. My only call to action would be to subscribe and definitely share this video with others who are either project coordinators or want